Textbook section 8.3 and question number 22. It's about global warming and people's responses. A Pew Research Center poll included 1,708 randomly selected adults who were asked whether global warming is a problem that requires immediate government actions. Results showed that 939 of these surveyed people indicated that immediate government action is required. So from this sample, we already know that the proportion of the sample that thought government action is needed, P hat, is 939 people out of total 1,708 surveyed. So if we use our calculator, we can find this P hat, 939 divided by 1,708, 1708, and that gives me a proportion of 0.5497. So this is approximately 0.55. So 0.55 is the proportion of people who thought immediate government action is needed. Part A of the question is asking us, what is the best estimate of the population proportion of adults that believe that immediate government action is required? Well, whatever estimate I got from the sample, for the time being we cannot do much better than that. So sample proportion is the best guess of our true population proportion. So we'll just use 0.55 as our answer to part A. Part B is asking us, construct 95% confidence interval estimate for the proportion of adults believing that immediate government action is required. So we already know that 95% confidence intervals margin of error is basically 2 times the standard deviation of the distribution of all the possible p hats, and we know that these sigma of p hat becomes population sigma over square root of n, and in the case of proportions, the sigma turns out to be square root of p times 1 minus p over square root of n. So sigma is equal to square root of p into 1 minus p. In our case, we do not know the true population proportion. So we'll use our next best approximation, which is p hat from our single sample, as a proxy for the population proportion in this case. And then we can just plug in the values. So this becomes 2 into square root of 0.55 times 1 minus 0.55, which is the sample proportion that we found right here by dividing these two numbers, over square root of our sample size, which is the total number of people surveyed, and that number is 1,708. 1708. So let's use our calculator to simplify all these things. So notice that 1 minus 0.55 is actually going to be 0.45. So under the square root, I am multiplying 0.55 with 0.45, which gives me a value of 0.2475 inside the square root. So here we have 2 times 0.2475 over square root of 1708. So if I take the square root of 0.2475, I'll just take the square root of this guy, which turns out to be 0.4974, and that element would be multiplied by this 2, so I'm going to multiply this numerator by 2 times 2 gives me the total value of the numerator, which is 0.9949 approximately. 9949, and in the denominator I have square root of 1708. 1708, so I'll clear this. I'll take 1708, and the square root of that guy is 41.328. Now if I divide 0.9949 by 41.328, that gives me a value of approximately 0.24. Sorry, that's 0.024. I made a mistake here. So 0.024, which in percentile form, if you wanted to talk in terms of percentage form, would be equal to, if I take this decimal point by 2 digits to the right, then it would be about 2.4 percentage points. These are the same thing. So to construct the 95% confidence interval, we take our sample's single mean p hat, which is 0.55, suppose that's this point right here, and then we take a positive margin of error, 2.4, and a negative margin of error, to find our total confidence interval, this whole interval. And the lower bound of this confidence interval is 0.55 minus 0.024, and the upper bound is going to be 0.55 plus 0.024. Sorry, I wrote the percentages here, but maybe to be more precise, I could write it as plus 0.024 and minus 0.024. So that gives me a value of 0.47 as the upper bound, and the lower bound turns out to be, if I deduct 0.024 from 0.550, that would be equal to 0.6 and 2 and then 5. So looks like 0.526, which means between 52.6% through 57.4% of the people are thinking that immediate government intervention is needed, and we are 95% sure that the true population parameter or proportion is somewhere between 52.6%, 52.6% to 57.4% of the population. And just because this entire confidence interval is bigger than 50%, we can infer that we are 95% sure that majority, i.e. more than 50% of the population, is thinking that immediate government intervention is needed. So there's a strong evidence that majority of the population is thinking so. So that answers part B and C both for you. I hope this is helpful. I'll try to be back with some more answers. And if you're having any problem, any question about any of the exercises that you're doing, just mail me or ask me in class, and maybe we'll do it together. If there's not enough time, I'll just post you the answer through a video or through written solutions. That shouldn't be a problem. For now, I'll say bye to you.